my hair looking fine?
They were just chilling.
I will not tell you that. ये off script हो गया हमारा, but it was fun. And ये mic पे है, interesting. But we're not that chaotic, okay? We get things done and we're pretty good with it. I'm talking too much.
Amazing! We should talk too much.
Hello.
Hi.
Yum. Interesting.
Okay, so I need to call you out on this. For the past couple of weeks, I've been seeing you look at people like they're puzzles that you're trying to solve. Can you tell me why you've been doing that? Should I be worried?
Don't be worried. But I suddenly feel busted because I'll tell you. So last month I read this really interesting book about, it's called Surrounded by Idiots. Okay. Before you make your mind about it.
Love this brunch today.
Actually, it's actually a book about how to analyze different people's behaviors and personalities, and in accordance to them, how to deal with them better. Yeah.
Okay, fair. So you're basically profiling everyone, am I right?
Maybe I'll tell you why I got into it. Obviously, the whole point of me picking out the book was, well, I was like, finally someone's going to understand me. But I don't think it, in fact, gave me a very big reality check because I'm like, turns out I am the idiot who doesn't, who's been talking, not talking wrongly, actually, but okay, let me put it this way because I love analogies. I've been trying to feed salad to people who love pizza. And obviously, it's going to get into this scenario wherein nobody's going to be pleased with it, right? Obviously, because you're feeding them the wrong thing.
Nobody wants salad.
No, I have salad, but that's not the point. Point is figuring out who wants what. Or let's say if someone prefers like a margarita or if someone prefers a pepperoni pizza, you have to feed them that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay? And this book taught me how to do that.
Fair. So I think we are getting into this really interesting conversation about people watching. And I am both fascinated and terrified a little bit. But I can't wait to dive in. Let's see what it's going to be like.
It is going to be fun. So a little bit of empathy, a little bit of humor. I will reduce the terror that you're having in your mind, but I'll give you a disclaimer. You are being psychoanalyzed, whether you like it or not.
Oh my God. I should have known.
But cheers to that.
Cheers to that. So I want to know what made you want to pick a book that is literally called Surrounded by Idiots. It is brave and concerning, but please tell me.
The title for sure is quite intriguing, right? So when I heard about it on an Instagram reel as a recommendation, I was like, why not? Finally, I'll get some validation, so I'll pick it up. And I started reading, okay? As I'm getting through the pages, not almost every, but like obviously certain parts in the book are instantly making me go like, oh shit, that's why Saksham behaves the way he does.
Oh my God, so the first victim of your book was Saksham, your co-founder.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, first victim, yes, but I think it made me understand and realize so much about what is it that makes his personality this way, and maybe our fights aren't as personal as I thought they were. So yeah, I think that works out fine.
So I need to know what did you psychoanalyze about him while reading this book? You have to tell me.
I will not tell you that. I am not going to spill the tea on what I psychoanalyzed about Saksham.
You have to tell me. Give me a little bit, just a little bit.
No, but I'll tell you what. I can tell you this much. After reading this book, it just became so much clearer, and it was like a tick mark in my head because I understood why we work so well together and what is it that makes us work in sync.
Okay, fair. I don't want to know what you psychoanalyzed about Saksham, but I want to know one thing. How do you know if you are the problem? Because I feel like surrounded by idiots, what if you are one of the idiots? What is this about?
Okay, I think I'll give you more details about it.
Please.
But every single person reading the book will figure out that they are the idiot and not the other. So they pick up the book with another thought in their head, but it actually becomes like this. because you asked me how to know if you're the idiot. Do you get too annoyed when you see someone taking too much time to make a decision?
Yes.
Do you get irritated or do you find people unprofessional when they're super chatty? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, then congratulations. You are the idiot and you have not figured out the core to it yet.
Okay, I'm feeling very called out right now, but I also want to know what happened when you started mapping everyone out?
Things became easier. I think I just became more aware of how it was going. Like, let's say I understand my team so much better, like some behavior that maybe I was thinking of as, okay, she's behaving a little too extreme for this sort of a result. It made me understand why she's doing that, or
Right.
what could be like the reason behind, that particular action or reaction to things. Or when I figured that a particular sense of calm or a particular approach towards how to behave in front of clients, that's actually what's kept them sane and why we've never had a client meltdown in the company. So every single behavior and the way people react to things, the way people address certain situations that happen at work, all of that just becomes crystal clear. And it just suddenly, gave me this hard-hitting realization that I was speaking the same language. So it's like there's one person who understands Spanish, there is one person who understands German, and then there's one who understands English. But I'm speaking to all of them in English without a translator or an interpreter. That's
Right.
So that's, I think, what changed it up. And I think every time that I now feel that, am I the problem? Is this the thing? Or is that what went wrong? The book has slapped me with the truth. I know that I was the problem.
Very interesting. I need to get this book because I feel like I am surrounded by idiots all the time. So, I know that you like keeping your secrets. You have not told me what Saksham's personality is and what you have psychoanalyzed about him so far. But I'm going to get that out of you later. What I need to know is that have you divided these people into different categories or groups or like types of personalities so far? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, that info I can give you.
Okay, thanks.
So, how that works is, as per the book, there are 4 dominant personality colors: red, yellow, blue, green. Okay, and even though most of the humans have a mix of colors, there is still like a personality trait,
Like a
that you can-
prominent
yeah.
color.
So, I'll tell you this with an example. Let's take it as there are 4 colors, right? Yeah, red, yellow, blue, green. All of those are divided as operating systems. Okay, think of red as the speed OS. They want everything quick, very impatient, very directional. They don't want your life story. They just want to get the work done. Okay?
Yeah, just get straight to the point. No
Yeah.
bullshit.
So red became the speed OS. Yellow is the social OS. Yellow is enthu, creative, wants to be a very people person, will go about, like jumping around,
The
talking.
personality hierarchy.
That like that, okay? And then comes green. Green is more of a steady OS. So the kind of people who keep calm, harmony,
Yeah.
but also they're the kind of people who hate change, okay? So someone who's not that adaptive,
Like a
might be a green. Yeah. Okay, and then comes blue. Blue is your logic OS. So they are super analytical. They want like a 100-step plan before executing everything. That's pretty much what all of those colors are about.
This is like Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw.
Yes.
Isn't it? Got it. So we're all in life divided into Harry Potter house. Amazing. How do you spot these Hogwarts students in the wild? How do you divide them?
Okay, so very easy to spot. Actually, everyone's perfect. All the approaches work. I think the problem starts to happen, or you realize that there is a problem when you try to place them all in the same bucket. As long as you treat them as the 4 different houses, you're good. But the moment you be like, everyone same answer karna hai, same tarike se handle karna hai, that's where you're bow.
Like the Indian schooling system,
Yes.
where everybody does the same thing.
Fair.
Okay, let's start with our fun rapid fire round. I have 5 simple questions for you. You remember what we did last time, right?
Yeah.
I think you're good to go on this. So I'll ask you 5 questions, and the first thing that comes to your mind, you have to answer with that.
Okay.
First question. What is Saksham's color?
Next question.
Okay. What is the color that you don't like working with or dislike working with?
Oh, very interesting. I think I would go with green.
Okay.
It's because, yeah, I think I need people to get things done, and when I don't like it when they're too scared of change. Yeah,
Fair.
when they're too scared to change. That's the thing.
Spoken like a true red. Okay. What's your biggest client tick?
Biggest client, male chauvinism, any day.
Spoken like a true female co-founder.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, this is for everybody who wants to get into the inside details. What's your admin color mix? Like your administration in Writtenly Hub, what's the color mix there?
Oh, that's a good question. I do have a couple of reds. I have a decent chunk of yellow as well. I think it's also because I'm more comfortable in working with reds and yellows. But I do have I do have 1 or 2 blues and 1 green, I think. 1 green. But we're not that chaotic, okay? We get things done and we're pretty good with it.
Okay, you know, that's how you know how to get along with people well. My last question. What is Saksham's color?
Nice try, Ravika.
Okay, thank you. So now that you have all of this information, like this book of secrets, goldmine information, I am so sure you've been conducting experiments at work on your team and your co-workers, including Saksham, which I know. So have you been having a lot of fun with this? What have you been up to?
I've been having a lot of fun. Like, a lot of fun would be an understatement as well. But I think it's been quite intriguing, the whole experience of it. And actually, the book also puts it out that way, that you should try to psychoanalyze more and more till you refine your skills and become accurate about guessing who is which color. Correct? Now, for starters, there would have been, I'm not even kidding, there would have been minimum 50 to 60 instances while I was reading the book when I would like highlight, take a screenshot, send it to Saksham and be like, this is so you, this is such behavior of yours. And then you know, in the middle of the meetings or like right after the meeting, I'll be like, oh, I know why she did that. She's such a yellow. So it became my way of talking. I started being this person who's like, oh, she's such a yellow. Oh, that was such a green thing to do and things like that. It was just kind of fun, okay?
Yeah.
But if I have to give you like some example also in terms of what experiment I did, I'll tell you. So after I had become aware of, you know, which person is following what dominant color trait, the next time there came like a major meeting where I had to announce a pivot that we were taking, okay? It's a big enough thing. It's a significant thing to do in a company. So when we were doing that, I knew the person that I'm going to be talking to next in my one-on-one is a very blue person. So rather than just going into the call with my usual agenda, which is, okay, this is the pivot that we're doing, this is how to go about it, etc., I went in fully armed. Like all my weapons were ready. I had a 150-step plan.
Oh my God.
As to how to execute it. I had the timeline sorted out, like at least a tentative idea about it. I also had things about what are the kind of hiccups we can expect, what are the advantages that we're going to get, in how much time will we be able to see it in effect. So I went in with all of that. And that changed everything, you know. Like when I went into the call, she was so happy, she was energized after it, and exactly the plan that we had in mind, the pivot, it made complete sense to her. And that's when I was like, oh wait, this book works. Like that was my very first instance of this is how to make it work, okay? Now, if people try to put it as, was it revolutionary? Not really. It's a book. It's available probably at every crossword outlet, so people can go check it out. But I think it is 500% more effective to run a business after you've read it.
Because you know how to apply it. You know what to do when you have your own playground, you know, check and experiment as you should. But one more thing is that what about feedback? Because feedback is where most people struggle with, right? And I feel like you could apply something like this to feedback sessions and, you know, telling people how to improve and how to do better and stuff like that. So
Okay, I think that's a very good point because apart from these major agenda meetings, feedback is one thing that's a part of every org. And it's not just at the leadership level, at all of the different levels, you need feedback. So I'll give you an example with like two colors, okay? One thing that you can keep in mind as a thumb rule is that reds are very task-oriented people and yellows are relationship-oriented people, okay? So let's say there is a manager who is like whose behavior is sort of affecting the overall team. How will I convey it? If it's a red manager, I have to go and tell them that, hey, your behavior is not really accurate. And because of this, what's going to happen is when the team comes to office on Monday, they are gonna feel very bogged down and their morale will be low.
Yeah.
And that would mean that your tasks don't get done on time. So your productivity will be affected. My point has gone through and through to that red manager.
I can imagine.
On the flip side, if I have to convey the same thing to yellow, now remember that they don't give a fuck about tasks. They give a fuck about people's feelings.
Yeah.
So for them, it can just be like, hey, yellow manager, the kind of behavior that you've been, putting off late, it might be affecting how people are feeling at work. So I am sensing this whole, I would say, less energy in the team, etc. And I do feel that they need an enthu boost. Like that. That's it. My feedback is conveyed. It's gonna result, hopefully, if both the managers are at the same capacity or skill capability level, I would say.
Yeah.
It's gonna result in the same output, but you understand the way in which I conveyed it?
Yeah, it's not the words you say, but how you say it. I get it. I get it. But I also have one more question.
Okay.
Do you think certain color people make better managers than the other colors?
Yes, I do think that. That being said, a team needs a mix of all four colors. That's a given. Okay. But I do feel that actually, one of the colors that should definitely be in a manager and a leader should be towards red.
Right.
Because reds have this capacity to hold that power to sort of lead the team, decision making, risk appetite, red and risk. Anyways, it goes hand in hand, right? So they have that risk appetite that you need to be able to move forward. So it's also, I think, very much dependent on what your business goals are or what your team goals are. So business is still like a wide thing to address that way. But let's say from a particular team, if I'm expecting rapid growth, I'd hire a red. If I'm expecting someone, let's say I have a lot of different personalities in the team and I want to hold them together, I will get a yellow because they have a way with people. If there is already a lot of chaos happening, I'll probably add a green manager in the mix because then it would mean that there's a little bit of stability and calm down. Exactly. I would say if the team demands like a lot of procedures and things like that, if it's too technical a role, I will probably go for a blue.
Blue. Yeah, because they're meticulous people.
Yeah.
Fair. So all four color people can be managers depending on the kind of team and the kind of outcome you need.
Yeah, right. That's really insightful. I love that.
So after hearing all of this, I'm getting some really fun ideas. Can you explain all of this with the help of an example? I know you love your examples and analogies. So can you please explain with the help of a nice, simple example for everyone to understand?
How about IKEA?
Hate it.
What?
Everyone's been there. I hate IKEA.
Why do you hate IKEA?
Because that's where all relationships go to die.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can survive IKEA furniture assembly together, you can survive a relationship together.
Can't relate.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. You can call urban companies that case.
Yeah.
But anywho, getting back to the point, I'm still going to pick up the IKEA example though, okay? Let's say you've gone to IKEA, you've picked up the furniture item that you wanted, and you've come home. Say it's with your friends. Let's not go into relationships, okay? How would each color deal with IKEA furniture?
Oh my God.
Why? I don't know. I think I'm getting a sense of what color you are. Okay, I'll give you a picture. Okay. It'll be very easy to paint. You've come home. Let's say group of 4 friends went to IKEA to get the best furniture that they could have. Yes, 4 different colors. Red, yellow, green, and blue. I've gone to IKEA and I've come back with one furniture item. Okay. Just be in the room and try to analyze each person. Okay. A blue will end up reading the manual twice. We'll count all the screws, how many pieces, what goes where. We'll probably segregate the left panel, the right panel, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. Then comes the red. Will throw away the manual first thing. They will throw away the manual and they will just get to putting it together because that's the end goal.
Yeah.
Then comes the yellow. Yellow will also not bother reading it. And they will just, okay, for the yellow, it'll be more about, oh, how will this furniture look in my room? Okay. Then comes the green, who will just lean back, pick up a beer first, and what's the hurry? We'll get to it when we get to it. Yes, so that's IKEA furniture assembly in terms of
Real size is the friends that we made along the way. I get it. I completely get it. So now that you've given me the example, I need to know what color you think you are. And you cannot dodge this question. I know you've not told me what color Saksham is and what personality he is, but you have to tell me what you are. So tell me.
I can tell you about mine.
Okay.
Thank you. I am red yellow.
Okay.
Yeah. I thrive with enthusiasm, creativity, storytelling, etc. That's a very yellow vibe of me. But at the same time, I'm also very like decision-making part, etc. So that's where the red of mine comes into play. Okay, so it's a mix of both. I also have a tinge of green in me, but more so it's the red and yellow that are dominant there.
Fair enough. So now we've moved on from Harry Potter to Divergent. You are all four houses in all four sects of society at once.
You know, 70% of the people are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, yeah, that's what you said, right? Not every person is not just one color. There's always a mixture of both. What about me? What have you realized so far? And am I getting psychoanalyzed right now?
You are getting psychoanalyzed for sure, but I'm not going to tell you what color you are. You tell me, depending on the IKEA description that I just gave, and depending on the whole dealing with feedback, or where do you see yourself? Are you more task? Are you more relationship?
I'm not relationship oriented. I would want to finish the task, but I also know about my capabilities. So I would read the manual.
You would read the manual
I would
twice.
read
So
the
you're a
manual.
blue.
Yeah, so I think I'm like a blue and green mix.
Actually, that's quite accurate. I do think that as well for you. I think the first thing that I got in my mind about you was bluish, but I do think you have a little bit of red also.
I do have a little bit of red, but that's only because I feel like I would rather be, like, I want to get things done, but I also know that you cannot just do them efficiently. So for efficiency, you have to be a little bit of blue.
It's okay. I'll be the yellow and red to your blue and green.
Yellow, I don't think I can manage. Like,
Ouch.
no, for me personally, I don't think I can handle a lot of people
Yeah.
around me when I'm building a shelf from IKEA, because that would traumatize me if there's like 3 different people trying to do things together. But yeah, I understand the importance of blue. In my workplace, I've seen this.
Fair.
Okay, so can you tell me about the most challenging color combinations? Now that we've spoken about this mixture and how you are a red, yellow, and I feel like I'm a blue and green, what's the most challenging color combination that you ever had to deal with?
I think the moment I say it, you'll get it. Red, green clashes are real. Because imagine on one spectrum, we have this red who wants to go at a speed of 3x, and then there's a green who's sitting back and having beer.
Fair.
Right? So just imagine what that dynamic would look like. Red needs a green to balance them out, but in terms of them working together, it can be a bad mix. Then on the flip side, you see yellow and blue. Yellow doesn't give a damn about what's to be done. They are just busy chit-chatting and storytelling. And then there's a blue sitting with that 100-step procedure. How are they going to function together? It does lead to a lot of chaos. And I've seen it. Okay, so as much as we deny it, even in my current workspace, everybody is amicable with each other. All those things are definitely there. You know how Retail Hub culture is like. But I know, and I've seen it, how a person who's more blue reacts around a yellow person.
Fair.
I have seen that energy shift happen, you know, like, and I've also dealt with situations wherein someone who's a blue has maybe reached out to me later and been like, how they did not like a particular thing, or how they're not finding the pace of the project comfortable and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's only because there is that clash of the colors.
It's like a nice recipe. For something to taste good, you have to have like a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of like, yeah, umami, I guess. So all of these flavors together work well. I get it. But how do you deal with like a dominantly yellow person zoning out during a meeting? Like that's a very high possibility, right? Because they don't really care about what's happening as an end goal. How do you deal with that?
I think it happens in 80% of my meetings. Because we do have significant yellows in the team. I know about them.
Yeah.
So remember how I said yellows are relationship oriented?
Yeah.
And how they need energy. So the moment anything gets boring, they're out.
Yeah.
And things get boring very fast for them. So you have to keep them hooked all the time.
And keep them engaged.
Yeah, but I'll also tell you another side, actually, and this is the side that I relate with more, which is yellows love taking the lead in presentations because they love telling stories. So you put them in front of a projector, and like there's an audience sitting for them. They love interacting. They will pick up people. They will give examples and things like that. So, well, I think I'm just talking about me at this point, but that's how yellows generally are. But on the other side, you have to keep telling them things like, this is what it's going to do for our company, or this is the impact that this is going to lead to, or that's the client output expected after this. The moment you start giving them these cues of how happy the client is going to be, or how revolutionary this will make the writers feel, things like that, they will be hooked to it because we are talking about how it's making people feel.
Right. Because their ultimate goal is not statistics or like, revenue increase or whatever. They're talking about,
they are like sub chill hai. Like, yeah,
qualitative stuff.
Yeah,
that's their goal. Understandable. What's like a disaster level combination? Like,
this was actually one. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to name it.
I love.
This is one of my client experiences. Yeah, I work with like solopreneurs, enterprise level entrepreneurs, and then I also work with like co-founders, startups, etc. Right? Now, there's this co-founder combination that I worked with, wherein one of the founders was a very dominant blue, and then the counterpart, the co-founder, was a yellow-green. Okay, so this blue person would come into meetings expecting results, metrics, analytics, presentations, how much is done, like, that, imagine a progress bar, what percentage are we at, that kind of.
Yeah, that kind of like
you.
Oh yeah, I get it. I'll do that for a living. I love that.
Yeah, so that. But then now they are co-founding with a yellow-green founder.
Right.
So this yellow-green person has come back in the meeting, chilling, and being like, oh, how's the team doing?
Oh my God.
They don't want to see any presentation. They're not interested
like
in how.
Vibe manager.
Yeah, they are just like, okay, it's looking good. The page is looking active. It's looking present. Everybody's having fun, and that's the main goal. Yeah. So I saw that clash happen, because but I'll tell you what happened in the middle of all of this. When you look at the mix, it's good. Every mix is good to have.
Right.
But the problem happened because they are our clients and we are the team that has to work with them. So if there is a meeting where both of them are coming into the meeting, it's like a battlefield for us because what do we
Who do you appease?
Yeah. And we can appease both because when it comes to Writtenly Hub, we talk numbers and we talk relationships. Like fun and numbers both are at par for us. But it's like the moment I'm talking fun, the blue founder is giving looks. The moment
I'm talking numbers.
Yeah, the moment I'm giving numbers, the yellow one has gone to coffee thinking like whatever, fuck it, whatever's happening. So that sort of a thing, like that balance can get difficult. And I think it got difficult even for the business by the end of it.
No, but I think a yellow-green founder would sort of ground the blue dominant founder as such, right? Because how do you only work with numbers? The numbers are not the only things that are going to get you places, right? It's your team as well. So I think that's where it works. But I'm just so surprised to know that you've not just limited your experimenting to your team at Writtenly Hub, but you have gone and started experimenting with your clients also. So it's crazy. I don't know how you've done it and how you've kept it a secret. Are you proud of yourself?
Very proud, dude. Just why would I not? It's like,
actually, yes.
I have the tools. It's almost like thinking I have the key to the lock, but I'm still trying to use the hammer to open it. Like, why would I do that? Yeah, fair.
Well, it's completely understandable. So, after listening to all of this, I feel like you need to have like a masterclass. You know, you need to have like a complete masterclass where you go ahead and teach people, and should be called how not to accidentally torture.
Excuse me.
How not to accidentally torture your team. Because you have just, every time you find some new experiment, you start experimenting around with your team. But you know, most 99.9% of the time it works.
Yeah.
Given you the tool to actually just be a better co-founder and not just, you know, go and look at the numbers and look at the growth numbers and, you know, how your team is expanding and how much money you're making. It's actually a very holistic approach. I commend that. It's really cool.
I really appreciate that compliment. I think this should be a point in the podcast where we cut it, where we put a snippet of Saksham giving a testimonial about how it's like working with Asta and see how well the experiment has worked.
After hearing all of this, I want to know, why don't you just hire all the Reds in your team, make them managers, and call it a day? Just get it over with.
Are you kidding? Why can't you just get the... Okay, so I understand where this point is coming from because to be honest, unlike what you might think, people of similar colors work pretty well together.
Yeah.
Like especially when, think about it. I mean like, you have an army of yellows, everybody's chit-chatting, chilling, life's good. Green, everyone's feeling calm and, you know, like in a space where nothing needs to be done. Blue, everybody is like frantically researching. Reds, okay, red, everyone's their own boss. So if you have 5 reds, you have 5 bosses.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is why you can't hire all the reds and get the work done. See, the whole thing is you will not get the right outputs. Okay? If you hire all the yellows, you'll get a lot of creativity, but zero follow through. If you hire all the greens, there'll be just very slow pace of getting things done.
Yeah.
No changes, things like that. No ideas will come to life if you get blues in because they're good with the research, but when it comes to taking the risk, they'll be a little behind. So you need that balance.
They'll be busy researching.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So what does like a good balance look like in a team? What's the correct mixture?
I think you definitely need all colors, but you need to place them in strategic ways. So think of it like, again, like I said, it depends on what department you're hiring for as well, right? If I need someone where the responsibility is more on the creative front, I would pick someone with at least a hint of yellow in them, right? But at the same time, if I'm picking someone who needs to be like where room of error is much lesser, where you need more accuracy, things like that, I would put in a blue because you need that eye for detail to get that sorted.
Yeah.
Right? At the same time, where I'm looking to get most decision making done and like rapid growth. So let's say if I'm looking in a sales department, I can definitely not just function with only red because that would mean they are their boss. They will not give a fuck about whether the client is coming in or not.
Yeah.
If you put 2 reds in sales, great, because then they'll be super competitive and they'll get the most deals in. But you do need greens as well, right? Because with clients, you need that calm, you need that approachability. You also need a yellow for pitches.
Right.
Yellows make good salespeople, right? Because they can interact, they can make conversations, they can build that rapport that you need to get the deal in. Actually, now that I think of it, I think that's why I'm handling the client side of things a little more at Ritulia, because it's not just about how that relationship building is a part of everything we do, but it's also more so, I think I enjoy that side the most.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, imagine you have like a client from somewhere in Japan, and a blue would definitely spend all of their time researching about the customs and what they need to do in a sales team, definitely researching about the customs of how to interact with a client from Japan. But a yellow would actually make conversation and get them on board with all of the research that they can get.
This is very strange, but I think it was just 2 days back that I was sitting in my room. So I was also like recording a couple of reels for my Instagram and all. And there's this video that I made where I talk about that difference. And it was somehow exactly the same thing that you just mentioned, which was I like to meet my prospects, my future clients, and I always call them my future clients because I know that I'm going to close them in.
Of course you will.
But I prefer to meet them in coffee shops and not in conference rooms. And there's a reason behind it. Because I want to know their story. I want to learn more about what keeps them up at night. what's the thing that's the ick for them in business, because that's going to help me achieve that with the kind of marketing strategies that we come up with at Writtenly Hub. It cannot be like a very randomized approach. You need a mix of both. So you do need your analytics and everything, but that's the thing. I know my teammates do that. So when I go back to them with the inputs that I've gotten, with the stories that I've gotten, they are gonna mix that up with the backend research that they're already doing. So that's gonna give me like a wholesome strategy, and it's gonna put me up the map. On the other hand, where I see companies reaching out to people, usually, and this is something I'm not just speaking from like what I've observed, but one of my clients actually quite literally asked me this. I met them for the first meeting and they're like, oh wait, so we are not gonna like see some charts and things like that? I said, we will see the charts, but you first wait. And I ordered them my favorite French toast. I'm not kidding, I did that. And then we got into talking about life. Then we got into talking about how being a founder is like, and then we got to business pitch deck. And I think that worked.
Yeah, I think that's the yellow shining brighter. But after all of this, how do you tackle your own colorblind spots?
Oh, interesting question. Self-awareness is key.
Fair.
Yeah.
In every aspect.
In every aspect. But I'll tell you where my self-awareness came from. One, I got to know that I'm a red yellow. So that test helped. But then comes my bestie, ChatGPT, and I actually...
That's so funny coming from someone who is a content marketing specialist, runs a business about...
Yeah, dude, I think anyone who's not utilizing AI to their advantage today is a fool. They're not doing business the right way. They're not growing the right way. It's all about which process you involve it in. And I think that's so important in how we are functioning today, how we are making things more efficient. It's not even about who's replacing what job. I see all of that on my LinkedIn and I'm like, dude, just get over it. Like, it's really not about who's replacing what. It's about how every single job can bring in AI in their process and change the game. It's literally that. So, but anyways, I was not using it for business when doing this. I asked it to ask me 30 questions to figure out and give me a rating out of 10 for each color. And it did that. And I was mind blown by the results. I saw it. That's how I got to know that I'm a red yellow. But then I read the reasoning and logic behind it, and I was impressed. Okay. So that's what gave me an understanding of, okay, it was quite accurate. I love decision making. I am pretty quick at making decisions. I love I love talking in stories. But more than that, I think when something else is needed, my team covers it, right? I know what my team can cover.
You know how
involves them in. Exactly. I don't like this whole approach that I'm some person sitting and then they are reporting to me. No. It's always been a roundtable situation. It will always be a roundtable situation because I need the team to cover blind spots, you know?
Correct.
And I do that from time to time. So it's also about my approach towards things. So I will probably ask myself things like, so rather than taking the approach of, why is this not done yet? I will ask myself also with the same humble approach like I would to my teammate and be like, what am I missing here? Because the moment I ask myself what could be missing or what's going wrong, I know my teammate is going to cover it up. And I think that's what's kept it going, and that's what's covering my blind spots as well.
Yeah, it's mostly about hiring the right people and getting the right people in your team, right? So that you know wherever you're lacking, you know there's like a strong person right there behind you to cover anything that you might need. Fair. So let's say I'm a founder who's not, I'm a new founder. I don't know anything about what's happening and, you know, like what do I need to do when it comes to hiring the right team? So how do I know what's the stuff that I'm missing out on?
I think we know enough about the colors by this point. I mean, as much as I can give you in this video, but more so in the book. Figure out the gap that's there in your team right now. If you feel like that there's a lot to be done, but there's nothing getting done, you really need a red.
Yeah.
And if you feel that things are being done, but there's not much of foolproofing and everything needs to be looked at least by 5 different people, then you probably need a blue at this point, you know. And if you've got the decision making and you've got the analytics behind it, but everything seems lifeless and boring, please bring a yellow in. Please bring a yellow in.
I think yellows are very important.
Yeah.
In teams that work collaboratively, Yellows are super important to have, you know, that enthusiasm going, that power, that energy going. That's super important. I really have to admit, after talking about color coding people in these different sections and, you know, becoming a sorting hat of sorts, today all I've done is think about all the different people I deal with on a daily basis, and I've just started sorting them in different sections. But how do you think the listeners, or like the people who are just, you know, tuning in, how would they start with something like this? How would they figure something like this out on their own? Where's the first place you start?
Yourself?
Yeah.
Definitely. And that too, not even with something like simple, because I think that the moment I ask you what all do you like about it, you're not going to get too many answers straight up. So ask the opposite question. What is it that aches you the most? Yeah? That way you start figuring it out. And it's not just about you will figure out what color aches you the most,
Yeah.
but more than that, you'll also figure out what color you are. Because chances are that if something's aching you, you're the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Right? So try to figure those things out and then sit and psychoanalyze. So
Psychoanalyze yourself and the people around you.
you could sit with your teammate or just like that, or just by yourself also after a meeting, and try to look for signs. Okay, like simple signs. You don't even have to get too much into it. Something like, is there someone who is perpetually making notes and asking follow-up questions?
Fair.
If they're super curious like that, the chances are that they want to be foolproof and they're blues. Or if you think that there are people who are just
Get shit done.
yeah, get shit done. They're like, the meeting has, and they're like, they're constantly looking at the watch and they're like, can I get started now? Things like that. They're probably a red. And then if there are people who are just busy telling stories every week, they are going to be your yellow. So that's very like simple identification marks. There's much more depth to it. And also, you really need to know that people emit different colors at different points. So in a situation, I could be a red, and in another situation, I could be a yellow. So that polarity is always there, but still, I think this is a good way to at least get started.
You need to be flexible to sort of
Yeah.
understand the people around you, right? And what about yourself? Are there any signs that you need to be on the lookout for to understand, or like the signs that scream that I am this color?
My own?
Yeah.
Yes, whenever in my creative headspace, or I think when I see the morning scrums that I'm a part of, and if I'm sharing any experiences, or just rather pushing people to share their experiences, I think that's where my yellow shines through the most. But my risk appetite is also quite high.
That's where the red comes in.
Yeah, that's where my red is coming in.
Yeah. Understandable. That's completely true. And from what I know, you are a red-yellow mix. Now that my brain is working in that way, I can tell you are a red-yellow. But what would you like to say to people who think that this color analyzing and color coding of people is somewhat of a manipulation, or like,
Oh. Actually, I've heard this debate. I've actually heard this debate that it's manipulation if you're trying. But here's the thing. Your point is fair.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's, I don't know, it's legit. Because you need to understand that I'm not trying to change the point.
yeah,
I'm just trying to change the medium of communication of it. Remember how I spoke of the whole, there's English, there's German, and there's Spanish. Just because I am trying to communicate in the respective languages rather than making it English uniform,
correct.
you realize I'm not actually manipulating. In fact, I am being respectful of the person because I'm understanding that what would get through them the most. Because, see, the end goal is for them to feel comfortable, for them to get the job done, and for them to be excited about what they're doing. And I think you can do that best when you communicate things in a way that they understand the most.
Correct.
Right? That's it. I don't think that's manipulation.
Okay, and after knowing all of this, has this changed or impacted your relationships outside of work as well? With your friendships, your relationships of any sort?
Little bit. Even though I mean, more usage or more applicability of this is in like at my workplace, but it does affect. I think, let's say if I'm talking to my parents, if I see my mom behaving a certain way, I'll instantly map a color Like, oh, this is why. And then I'll just be like more careful about it or just like be more accepting. So I think it's affected it in a very positive way because I've become way more accepting of how people are. I have started challenging myself also in in a few ways that I'm like, okay, maybe this person is that color, so let me try this approach. And it has worked wonders. Yeah.
Okay. So you sort of look at all your interpersonal relationships in the form of color so that you know how to deal with them and you know how to, communicate with them better, right? So I have one final question for you.
Okay.
If anybody who's listening wants to start with a color, where should they start? Like, what color, if they were to pick one singular color to understand it better, what color would it be?
The color that you dislike the most.
Oh, sure.
So, because it's not about, you need to understand that you don't dislike the person, you just maybe are impacted negatively by certain behaviors that they portray. So, the color that you despise the most, get deeper into it because
Yeah.
it will instantly improve the relationship that you have with them.
And your understanding of your people around you.
Exactly.
Okay. That's some really good advice. I have a lot to think about, and I think I'm going to start looking at people around me in this way. Maybe my coworkers, maybe my friends, and I'm just going to start associating different colors with them. And this was a really interesting and mind-bending conversation, I would say. We should definitely see what else we can talk about with regards to different colors and different people. But yeah, I think this was a lot of fun.
Do you still think I should take a workshop on how to torture people?
I think you should. I think that would be like the best alternate career path for you.
No way, Labika, come on.
So, I think this brings us to the end of this session. Had a great second brunch with you, and can't wait to see what else we have in store. See you guys next time.